And we are here for an Education and Culture Committee work session dealing with Montgomery College's capital budget and amendments to the FY 21 through 26 capital improvements program. We have with us the esteemed Dr. Darian Pollard, president of Montgomery College, Ms. Donna Shana, our senior vice president for administrative and fiscal services with the college, Mr. Marvin Mills, our Vice President for Facilities and Public Safety with Montgomery College as well, Ms. Christina Schramm, the Interim Director of Capital Planning, Design, and Engineering for Montgomery College, and Raphael Murphy, Fiscal and Policy Analyst with our Office of Management and Budget. I really just want to start off by thanking our staff, as always, for laying out a great packet, continuing to work with Montgomery College as well as us in ensuring that we understand the challenges that are before us and how best to proceed in a way in which we can continue to forward the college's mission while at the same time understanding the fiscal constraints that we find ourselves under. I will turn to Dr. Pollard for any opening remarks, but let me first turn to my colleagues to see if they have any opening comments before I begin and turn to Dr. Pollard to get us started. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, just to say that really appreciate what Montgomery College continues to do, even in light of this crisis, and how they have not only provided instruction, but also real, very direct support to students. I think that it is indicative of its mission and continuing to reflect the values, especially coming from the leadership of Dr. Pollard and the Board of Trustees and just everyone who interacts with students. So really want to express my appreciation. And obviously, as we get into budget, conversations, discussions, we'll be thinking very much about prioritizing those elements that have made it possible to navigate this pandemic, but that will also remain to be important as we, try to do these reopenings and just in general, I think changing the way that we also view education and instruction. So appreciate everything that everybody has done, and I have really appreciated also the conversations with you, Dr. Pollard, and members of the Board of Trustees in terms of what your priorities are. Thank you.
Councilmember Jawando.
Yeah, I'll just say amen to, I'm sure Dr. Navarro has an honorary degree either coming or on the way, but I agree. And Dr. Pollard, and to your team, thank you for all that you've done. The preparation in which you come to always meeting with us and letting us know what the needs are and being very candid. And you're a great resource, best community college in the country, as I always say, and you're needed now more than ever as we look towards an equitable recovery. You've already been doing so much during this time. So we understand how important that work is. So just wanted to say those framing remarks. So I appreciate you and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much to both of my colleagues, and you've actually summed up exactly what I was going to say. So I'm going to turn to Dr. Pollard and give you an opportunity to frame where the college is. We heard a very recent announcement regarding the college in terms of its intentions for both the summer and fall, but certainly want to give an opportunity for you to kind of lay the groundwork as to where the college finds itself, where you see the future of the college going when it comes to some of its capital expenses and the like. So Dr. Pollard.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Chair Rice, and certainly to members of the Education and Culture Committee. I feel privileged to have the opportunity to represent Montgomery College before you. You all have always been steadfast champions of us because I think you understand profoundly what our mission is and how we try to enact that in to the residents of Montgomery County. So thank you for your support and you and your team's willingness to hear and talk with us and offer constructive thoughts and feedback while at the same time recognizing the unique position we find ourselves in. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank the best team there is to work with. And I really want to thank them. They make my job a lot easier, but also make me look good. So I can just come here and just offer a few comments because they've done so much of the heavy lifting before we arrived in this space. So we clearly recognize as a college that the county is in a very unique position. There are some difficult challenges that we're facing right now, and I would offer even more that we're going to be facing in the near future. So we appreciate your steadfast leadership. I've said oftentimes, I cannot imagine being in your shoes doing your work, but you do it with excellence. And I appreciate that so much on behalf of the students and employees of Montgomery College. We are ready to help you as we look at how we want to help the county move forward to recover and rebound. We are a part of that solution, and we readily step into that space with you and to help the county in that regard. One way that MC can help is that we have been deliberately frugal in the capital budget that we've submitted to you for your consideration. There's only one major new project underway, which is the Leggett Math and Science Building at our Takoma Park Silver Spring campus. And in fact, we will use about $1.5 million of existing resources to help fund our FF&E for that. And we're grateful that the county executive funded the county share of that in his recommended budget. But we also, and again, in that spirit of frugalness, deferred both library renovations, which, we have been talking about that top of mind for the last several years, and also our Germantown Student Services Center. We even pushed that out further into FY24. We did this because we knew that it was important to bring to you the things we need the most right now, to focus on the essentials. And that essential for us right now is to ask you to help us protect our IT resources and our deferred maintenance projects. We know that right now in the executive branch has recommended about $9.4 million in reductions to our capital budget. Approximately 1.4 of that speaks to our IT. We've lost about $14.5 million over the last 5 years. A fifth of a reduction in the budget in 5 years is a challenge. We know that in this space where we're providing classes online and support services online, that it's essential to have the infrastructure and architecture to support that. The projects that are associated with this speak to both our enterprise and our student services and student support areas. So this idea of having to cut that and the people that are associated with it is deeply troubling to me, and also short-sighted given the environment that we're operating in right now. The second here, I'm asking you to please reject the $8 million in cuts on deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is just something that we cannot afford this reduction. Right now, we have $188 million of backlog, and this budget provides well less than what we need. But we know that there's a lot of challenges at this particular time. But this is something that when you don't pay for it now, you end up paying 2 and 3 and 4 times that later. Sustained losses of the last several years in our deferred maintenance has really seen itself in a couple of areas. Our roof replacement projects have been cut by approximately 52%. And as I remind people, when you think about roofs, it's not just the roof that may sometimes fail. It will be the materials that are in the room. It will be the floors underneath and the spaces even below that. And then our planned life cycle asset replacement projects previously have been cut by 31%. These are things that are essential right now, such as HVAC units. Some on our Takoma Park Silver Spring campus are 44 years old. They are beyond their useful life. They're 3 times what they were supposed to be installed to do. So we're asking for you to help recognize with us that there are a lot of things happening. We understand debt capacity is significant, the debt ceiling is significant, but we also know that we continue to be the first place of education for so many people in our community, and we're doing that in a time when our community needs us most. I'll end on one last set of comments, just briefly, as you mentioned, Councilmember Rice, about our strategy for the fall, summer and fall. We've been very deliberate at Montgomery College, and why I think we've excelled in this space compared to a lot of in higher ed. We've treated our students with 2 ideas in mind. One is students and one is consumers. And we want to make sure that both our students and our employees, their public health and safety requirements are maintained first, and that we continue to deliver high quality academic excellence and support. So to do that, we have delivered our this academic year primarily in a structured remote environment. Our intent is to maintain that for the summer, to offer structured remote, and then in the fall to offer some courses face-to-face, hopefully in an environment that will be significantly redesigned for those student needs, monitoring, obviously, social distancing, being very deliberate about courses that need lab experiences for those students to be able to step into the workforce, and also delivering a number of courses still in our remote function, with the idea that if health conditions improve, we'll be able to add additional classes that will allow students to come in, hopefully in a more face-to-face perspective. But interestingly enough, as I think one of you may have asked me in my conversations with you, academic planning starts way earlier than most people think. So we may not be delivering a summer schedule until June, but our faculty are signing up for it right now. Students will start signing up for it in about a couple of weeks. So we have to, again, if we treat them both as students and as consumers, we want them to have all the information they need to have in order to make the decisions for themselves that they need to make, and anticipate that we will not be changing it. That's a very important part. Consistency is really the best friend of so many of our students. So that is where we are at this particular point. I'll end my comments and look forward to either now or later hearing questions that you all may have for me. But thank you, members of the committee.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Pollard. Very convincing reasons as to why, we need to continue to partner with the college. We always appreciate the very thoughtful way in which you approach your budgets. You've done it consistently year after year, both in CIP and in operating, making sure that you understand the fiscal situation that the county finds itself in, while still balancing the needs of the college to continue to grow, to help support the students that attend there, that helps our overall economic development efforts. It's one of the things that I know Councilmember Navarro and I, in a private conversation, have been having about what it means when it comes to ensuring that the college is poised to be at the forefront of the recovery effort from COVID. And so certainly we want to make sure that we put our best foot forward, while also recognizing the GO chair's concerns about affordability and all of the things that we need to do as well. It oftentimes is difficult. And so with that, I think I've teed it up in terms of that difficulty, turning it over to Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez, who as always very aptly lays out for us the decision points that we have before us and some of those exact challenges that we're experiencing. So Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to all of our participants from Montgomery College and the Office of Management and Budget who've joined us today for today's discussion. I'll provide a quick summary or a brief summary of the college's requested amendments to the FY21 to 26 Capital Improvements Program, as well as the county executive's recommendations and affordability reconciliation requests. And then we can move on from there. So to begin, Montgomery College's amended 6-year total CIP request is $295.6 million, which is about a $1.015 million increase, or 0.34% from the approved FY21 to 26 CIP. The executive's recommended amended 6-year total is $287.68 million, which is a $6.9 million decrease from the currently approved FY21 to 26 CIP, and a $7.964 million reduction from the college's request, which incorporates his reconciliation amendments as well as an additional $1.43 million in the affordability reconciliation. On January 15th, the executive sent over his recommended reductions, and in February, the ENC chair sent a letter to Montgomery College requesting non-recommended reductions to meet the county executive's affordability reconciliation. And of course, we received that letter in great time, and they have provided their non-recommended reductions for both the current revenue reduction of $1.43 million and the FY24 through 26 GO bond reductions. Staff recommends the committee approve the non-recommended reductions submitted by the college and endorse the priority list for restoration of funding allows during final CIP reconciliation. Now, I'll go through a few of the college's amendments that the county executive is also in recommendation of and in approval, and then we will go through the non-recommended reductions, which have additional college amendments as well. So the first project is the college-wide road/parking lot repairs and replacements project. And this amendment from the college reflects a minor cost acceleration of $10,000 from fiscal year 21 and $9,000 from fiscal year 22, and shifting that to fiscal year 20. And this project provides funding for the repair, maintenance, and improvements of the college's parking lots, roadways, walkways, and associated site infrastructure. Seeing no discussion, I'll move on to the second project, which is the college-wide library renovations project. So as you can see in the table at the bottom of page 4, the college's amendment request accelerates funding for library renovations, and specifically the Rockville Mcelin Tower building and the Takoma Park / Silver Spring Resource Center. The scope for the Rockville building increased due to LEED Silver certification requirements. And in addition, the Takoma Park Silver Spring building had a Part 1 and Part 2 document that is currently being prepared, with completion expected in fiscal year 24. The construction of the building expected to be completed in fiscal year 24. This project was originally fully funded by the county, and now they are shared half and half with the state as reflected in the table above. The funding acceleration was offset by deferrals in the Germantown Student Services Center project, which we will discuss later in this discussion. Okay, seeing no discussion, moving on to the third project, which is the Takoma Park / Silver Spring Math and Science Center. So the college's amendment request adds $1.6 million in fiscal year 22 due to increased cost estimates for furniture and equipment and state allowed escalation. The entire project is funded 50-50 between the county and state aid. Last year, the council approved $7.4 million for the furniture and equipment costs in fiscal year 22 that would have been funded 50-50 by the state. The amendment reflects a revised total cost for the furniture and equipment of $10.5 million, which is $3.1 million more than previously approved. The college is using $1.5 million in existing funds to help address this gap and is requesting an additional $1.59 million split 50-50 between the county and state, which is about $795,000 increase from the previous approval. As requested by the college, the county and state would each fund $4.5 million in furniture and equipment. The executive recommends support of the college's amendment and fully funds the county's $4.5 million share. And I will note that the state in the governor's FY22 recommended budget only funded $3 million of the state's $4.5 million share, which is currently $1.5 million below what is shown in the college's request. And if desired, the college can provide additional information on efforts to get the full state funding.
So Dr. Pollard, if we can stop there for a moment, and I know that Councilmember Gelando is lead for libraries, cares deeply about our libraries. He spoke very passionately about it during last budget, and the need for us to continue to support our libraries, not just the county libraries, but the libraries on our Montgomery College campuses as well. Can you give us your thoughts as to where the state is, what we are hearing? I know I have actually asked with our Office of Intergovernmental Affairs about this as well, to see if there may be some potential in terms of adjustments, and didn't get an answer that was positive in the direction I would have liked to have seen the state. But I'll turn to you, Dr. Pollard, for some remarks on this.
Sure, thank you. In regards to this particular project, there were two things. One, the library project, and then speaking to the Takoma Park project as it relates to the math and science facility. We are fairly certain that what we have from the state right now in terms of libraries and it being pushed out will stay where it is. It's a part of the compromise that oftentimes the state has to make, as it has lots of competing projects, and there's a limited amount of resources that are even designated for community college projects. So there's a highly regimented, formulaic prioritization process we go through, and we have continued to list it there. We're preparing our state paperwork for the libraries right now. We'll submit that, but we know that actual funding will probably come at a later point. As it relates to our Takoma Park Silver Spring project, just tomorrow, in fact, I'll be speaking before joint committees in the House and the Senate to advocate for the state's inclusion, or the state living up to its commitment regarding its FF&E for us on this project. We have also been very diligent in talking with individual members of our delegation and members of other across the state to have them prepared, and the Maryland Association of Community Colleges has been very fierce advocates. So we're hopeful that we will be able to make a thoughtful case to them that the state should meet its escalation commitments as well.
So thank you for that. And I think that colleagues from the Education and Culture Committee, a quick memo to our state delegation. Again, it doesn't have to be a real long letter, Nicole and Craig, but certainly something that could just be a quick note to remind our colleagues at the state of the importance of their commitment as the council, as the county has certainly honored its at the 4.5 being a part of this budget would be incredibly important for us. And so again, just a quick note, and I see my colleagues nodding, so I'm assuming without objection that we would do something like that, that would just reinforce what you were saying, Dr. Pollard, and ensure that our colleagues know just how important this project is as they're deliberating on it right now. Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez-Hernandez, back to you.
Okay, so now we will continue to the Montgomery College's non-recommended reductions that they submitted in response to your letter as a result of the county executive's affordability reconciliation. So the table on page 6 summarizes the package of non-recommended reductions from the college to meet his requested reductions. You will note that there is a $1.43 million reduction in current revenue that the county executive said could be taken from FY20 through FY22, and the college has placed it in fiscal year 22. And then we have specific GO bond fund reductions for fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25, and fiscal year 26. So I will go through the projects. A few of them do have additional college amendments that the executive supported. And then I will pause, and if there's any discussion, just let me know and we will continue on. Okay, so the first one is the Information Technology Systems Project. This project provides funding for the design, development, installation, construction, and support of the college IT systems, as well as for technical staffs. And the college's non-recommended reduction requests reduce current revenue funding in fiscal year 22 by $1.43 million, as mentioned before. And the total 6-year total with the non-recommended reduction would be $49.6 million.
So let me just pause there and just say that this one is very uncomfortable, as we heard from Dr. Pollard, and the commitment from the college to continuing with online. I mean, even if it weren't for you continuing with online, it would be a concern, but even more so because we're looking at online for both the summer and the start of the fall, right, into potentially spring. And I listened very carefully to where that is. That's a long time from now, and again requires staffing as well as support. I'd really like to see us come back to this and see if there's a way in which we may be able to reinstate this funding. As a person who deeply cares about IT, who's leading the broadband task force for the National Association of Counties, this is a big deal when we talk about what the local piece of this is and just the infrastructure, right? Whether it's people or the hardware itself. It certainly is something that requires us to be on top of our game. I'll turn to my colleagues for any additional comments, but would certainly lean towards staff trying to come up with a methodology. And so I'm not sure if offhand you may have any ideas about how we may try and address this, because it is current revenue, maybe during the budget process, but certainly want to hear from staff first, and then about some potential options, and then hear from my colleagues about what their thoughts may be as well.
Mr. Rice, we could certainly, typically when we get current revenue reductions, they usually come over with the operating budget submission instead of the CIP submission. And then we kind of take them up in conjunction with the college's operating budget discussion. So if the committee wanted to defer a decision on this particular item for the time being, then we could bring it back as part of the broader operating budget discussion for the college. That would be one potential option.
Let me turn to my colleagues. Councilmember Navarro.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it makes complete sense for us to take it up in the context of the operating budget. And again, as we have also, discussed and agreed on how we're going to focus our attention strategically to address issues related to COVID-19, fiscal issues, et cetera. There's no doubt that as we are also mindful of our fiscal policies and mindful of things like debt service, et cetera, it is true that we have to respond. And to me, this is very much tied to our COVID-19 response and how we're delivering instruction. And, to undermine that work means that we're going to have to, it's going to become a lot more expensive if we don't prioritize that now. So I definitely agree with exploring and figuring out how we can preserve this particular piece and give the college what it needs to continue their work.
Councilmember Jawando.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I will disclose, as Dr. Pollard knows, I am now a Montgomery College student. I'm taking Spanish 2 on Saturday mornings from 10 to 12, and my teacher. Gracias. And so my teacher professor had some Zoom issues, the IT. So this is a real thing, and I know this is much more expansive than that, but I'll just say that we're going to be in this model for a while, and needing to get services out and have those infrastructure investments into our information technology is critical. So would agree with the recommendation to take it up in the budget, but I strongly lean towards trying to restore as much of this as we can because of the just critical need for the recovery and for current students and staff. So thank you.
So colleagues, I can't agree with both of you more. And Councilmember Jawando, welcome to the Montgomery College Alumni Club. Many of us are certainly alumni of Montgomery College, and so welcome, sir. It's a great group. I'm sure Dr. Pollard is incredibly proud. All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Howard. We will certainly take you up on that offer. So I think that's a great way for us to defer and you've already heard where folks may be in terms of their positioning. So we'll need to make sure we're trying to figure out at this point, although we are deferring, we also need to try and figure out where we're going to be able to get this money from to be able to help support that initiative, because it's very clear from the three of us that we would support moving that item forward in terms of restoration of that funding. All right. So, Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez, next one, planned life cycle asset replacement. I'm sorry.
When HOA started doing lawn services?
I don't know. They're not doing lawn services.
Yes, they are. They're out
Mr.
here
Mills?
in our yard.
Mr. Mills?
Going to people's yard and they putting it
Mr. Mills?
fertilizing and stuff.
You're on.
She says through the HOA.
I don't know.
Mr. Mills, you're on. You're not on mute. There we go. All right.
Hey, yes, so we will continue with PLR now. So Montgomery College had an amendment request in addition to a non-recommended reduction. So the amendment request would reflect a technical adjustment showing cost increases to restore reductions from the FY19 to 24 biannual CIP. And there's no impact on FY21 to 26, but just wanted to inform the committee. And then the recommended reduction request would reduce GO bond funding in fiscals year 24 and 25, reducing the 6-year total from the approved at $24 million to $22 million. So they reduced a total of $1.99 million from FY24 and FY25.
Colleagues, any thoughts, questions, concerns there? I will just say that in general, when it comes to all of these, when it comes to PLR as well as when it comes to roof replacement, one of the other things that we need to consider, and it's interesting, I was just talking with our Green Bank that was giving us an update in terms of what they are working on and the projects they're looking at moving forward when it comes to continued role of energy efficiency throughout the county. And it is one in which we do need to start to consider the energy efficiency of our buildings, especially those that are older when it comes to HVAC. We always think about it in the context of, COVID, because that's what's before us, and rightfully so. But in addition, I mean, it really is one in which we've seen older buildings that have changed their HVAC, changed their boilers, whatever the case may be, have huge cost savings. which means a reduction in energy usage, which means we're getting closer to our climate goals. And so from that perspective, we also have to consider that as well. Oftentimes we think about these things just as hardware, just as changing out the roof, changing walls, changing a boiler. But in reality, it actually represents a larger aspect of what we're looking to do in the community. So it will be important for us to certainly consider those as we move forward. Dr. Pollard, I just wanted to ask you and maybe some of your staff, I know that we are looking at some additional resources that may be coming from the federal government to help allay some of the challenges, especially when it comes to HVAC. Has there been any talk of possibly trying to recoup some of that money to be able to utilize to offset in ways in which we might not be able to have to look at the entire, I guess it's $9 million in total, but is there some sort of reduction in terms of that we can look at that potentially could help us in that direction?
Sure, that is actually what one of the things we're working on right now, Councilmember Rice. In fact, I have an internal group that I was just planning around. We're looking at a strategy around any of these federal dollars that come in to do two things. One, obviously, to support students and student success. So we know a good portion of these dollars are really going to be passed through dollars directly to students who are in emergency need. But secondly, anything that we have then that is able to be used for college use, how do we look at these one-time dollars as a sustainability effort? And that might require us to do a series of things as you're describing, reprioritize our needs and to look very deliberately about how these dollars can be used as offset in that space, because the priorities are going to become very different now as we try to look at coming back to more aggressive face-to-face occupational spaces. So we do have our folks looking at that and really trying to cost estimate that over time and figuring out what we can do right now. And we're also awaiting some of the more specific guidelines from the federal government about how the resources can be used. One of the things we don't want to start doing is spending before they tell us that it can be spent. And you and I both know you can only ask for forgiveness once. It's often better with the feds to ask for permission more often than not.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with regards to these, and I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but I do think that it would be important to understand a little bit more about that as well, to help us to shape. I know that we want to be as supportive as possible in terms of restoring some of this as we can, but certainly because especially the CIP is just such a product of so many moving parts and pieces that it's very difficult to be able to just say we're plugging things in. But let me turn to my colleagues for some of their thoughts that they may have surrounding PLAR and roof replacement. Councilmember Jawando.
Sure. I guess I'm glad that you asked that question first of, what we can, if there's things that we can move around or, realizing that I tend to be on PLAR and roof replacement and all these things in the category of, I think your opening point, Dr. Pollard, that if you don't invest in it now, we're going to be paying, quadruple or more later. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense, but realizing too that, we've got a lot of government buildings and we've got a lot of places that are in need of repair and we've got a lot of priorities. So I guess I would, and I don't know if I heard it in what you just said, are you expecting to come back to us with some additional analysis or information, or do you, and when would that be?
So I will be coming back to you with additional analysis and information.
Yeah.
I can if you so request it. But two things is that we're still waiting to get the federal guidelines, which we have not yet received. Yeah. Our plan is to do exactly what you heard Mr. Rice speak to, is figure out how we can use those dollars to meet needs, particularly in the physical spaces that right now we simply hadn't planned for, but know they need to be done right now in order to bring people back. And then secondly, probably, which is equally important to this, is then at some point we will have to come back for appropriation requests, but that's more of a formality compared to the first part of what you asked, what our plan and strategy is.
Okay. Well, yeah, I again lean towards, want to try to way to figure this out. So I don't know, I defer to my colleagues, Mr. Chairman, but I want to try to figure it out if we can.
Okay. Councilmember Navarro.
Yeah, similarly, I think that once there's a little bit more clarity, I mean, I think that we should be able to explore through the reconciliation process whether there are opportunities to provide some relief in this particular area. So I don't think we should close the door, but obviously get some more information and then consider the reconciliation process for this.
Excellent. Yeah. I agree with both of you. So, Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez, I know I stopped you in the middle. You were at, I guess, about to go into roof replacement, and I kind of jumped ahead for all of them. But I think they're all under the same context of that we understand that there are some challenges associated, especially, and I'll just say this, especially when it comes to PLR and roof replacement. Those are two ones that for me stick out as ones that we definitely need to place focus on. And I'll even say this, look, for the Germantown Student Services Center in my district, I live in Germantown, but it's one of those where I know that when we take up the full CIP again, we can take another bite at this apple also. Now, obviously, if we come up with some strategies, and it's not to close the door on what those strategies may be for keeping some of that got shifted outside of the 6-year CIP to come back in, that would be incredibly important. But I will just say that we have another multitude of opportunities to address that. And so from that perspective, I feel confident in our commitment. And so by us saying that here to you today, Dr. Pollard, we remain committed to the Germantown Student Services Center. We know what it means for that community, for that campus, that, there may be a way for us to actually, rework some of those things as our fiscal picture gets a little brighter as well. So just some initial thoughts there. But Mr. Rodriguez-Hernandez, you can go ahead and kind of walk us through, because I think that closes out for the most part with an intention that we will come back to some of these things. But let me give an opportunity, Dr. Pollard, because I don't want to speak for the college. If you had to, and I know these are all non-recommended reductions, but if you had to prioritize where you think the college would be seen as more supportive of things that we would restore, if you could give us an idea of what those things would be, that would be incredibly helpful.
Well, I appreciate that opportunity. I feel like I'm going shopping if I get to say that. I don't know. It's been so long. Ms. Shanna and I have been talking about this. We haven't been able to go shopping for a while, but I want to say PLR would actually be most significant in that if we're able to respond. As I said, our deferred maintenance is significant in this space and impacts, I think, our very ability to deliver on our mission. And I'd also say, kind of closely related to that, obviously, are the roof replacement and capital renewal. That being said, I always know that it's a delicate balancing act. And I don't know if any of my team would like to offer a different perspective, but I think on page 3, we've listed our priorities in this regard, and IT projects, PLR, roof replacement, capital renewal, and then site improvement. So I was hopeful that you would ask that, and here we go.
Well, there you go. See, your wish came true.
You all do so much for us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, absolutely. Let me turn to staff, Ms. Rodriguez-Hernandez, Mr. Howard, on some thoughts around what strategy we've laid out regarding capital.
So, Mr. Rice, I think what I'm hearing is that, and I guess what I would suggest if the committee approves would be to approve the non-recommended reductions as submitted by the college, excluding the current revenue, which is that action that would be deferred, and also endorse the priority list for restoration that Dr. Pollard mentioned. And then with the understanding that staff will work, as part of reconciliation to see that there's other factors besides just what dollars are available in the county. There's some potential federal dollars that could help with this. And so we'll work on the entire package as the council moves through the whole CIP reconciliation process about what might be able to be put back in. And certainly as the council takes final actions, we'll bring all these things back to you. But then also, continue the current revenue discussion as part of the college's operating budget.
I think that sounds perfect. Colleagues, yep, I see thumbs up. That's perfect. Excellent. So Dr. Pollard, yes, we are endorsing your list. Yes, we have tremendous concerns about PLAR, about roof replacement, about capital renewal. And so we're certainly highlighting that in terms of restoration via our reconciliation process. And we are very clear about our intention when it comes to, and that's why we're deferring today on the decision around current revenue and IT. So I anticipate, I'll just go out there and say, I'll anticipate that you will see a significant portion, if not every single bit of that restored. But we know what the priorities are for the college, and we know how important that is to the overall operations of the college. And so want to recognize and support that as you continue to be a great partner with us. We need to be the same with you. And so certainly we will do everything within our power to make sure that that part of it is addressed first and foremost. So I think that is it for us in the packet. I again want to thank council staff. You guys have done an amazing job in actually being able to summarize and put everything together about what our intentions are is incredibly important. I want to thank Dr. Pollard, you and your great team for their work as well. I see that Ms. Beck has joined us. I'm not sure if Office of Management and Budget, I know that Raphael Murphy was here before. I didn't see a hand raised, but certainly wanted to give them an opportunity if they had any questions or comments before we close up.
Thank you. Raphael and I were splitting our meetings today, but I think just thank you for understanding that the financial situation is such that at least for the moment, it appears we have to make some reductions. And we're happy to work with everybody. I think the college has always been a very good partner, and particularly if there's an ability to look at how the federal aid can be used to leverage and address some of these one-time things, move some things around, maybe move up some HVAC work, you know, creating space later years, we would be happy to work with you.
Well, Ms. Beck, I just want to thank you again and the county executive for continuing to partner with the county council on things like this. This is an example of when we work well together, great things can happen. And certainly we've seen it with the Education and Culture Committee and Office of Management and Budget continuing to brainstorm about ways in which we can move things forward that we know are priorities for our community as a whole. And so look forward to continuing to do that in this realm as well. I know that you guys always roll up your sleeves and sharpen your pencils and figure out a way to make it happen. And so we appreciate that. So
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, with that, great meeting. We are adjourned. And again, want to thank everybody for all of their dedication. Congratulations, Councilmember Jawando. Tienes un buen día. And you guys take care. Stay safe.
You have Mr. Rice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You have a second item today.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm so sorry. Chair faux pas. I apologize.
The college can leave. The right. Hasta luego to the college.
There you go.
I thought something had changed, so I was like, okay. Adios.
You see, Dr. Navarro did that. You see, Dr. Navarro just got quiet on that. She
there it is.
I was like, adios, hasta luego. Nos vemos mañana.
So thank you very much, college. Take care. All right. I forgot that we added another one, which is our amendment to the FY21 CIP for our Department of Recreation for cost sharing. And so I will turn it over to Ms. Chen, who's going to walk us through some of the decision points that we have there. But just want to thank you, Ms. Chen, for the great work. I know that we've got Ms. Anita Arieti from our Office of Management and Budget, who's with us as well. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. And thank you to actually Mr. Howard for pushing us in there. Waving my hand. I'm Carolyn Chen, Legislative Analyst, County Council. This is a last add-on item for the Education and Culture Committee. It is an amendment to a resolution on the 5 arts capital grants that we approved for fiscal year 21. And it's a very specific amendment in order to allow for a mechanism to be created so that the funds that are typically managed through the Department of General Services for arts capital grants, we would like to transfer those funds one time just this year to the Arts and Humanities Council's NBA account so that they can disperse these funds in upfront disbursement so that capital projects can begin in full. So this is a one-time mechanism. It is for a total of $746,638 for 5, not 6 organizations in those amounts. And I have worked with, thank you to OMB, DGS, Finance, County Attorney, Arts and Humanities Council, everybody that worked on this in order to brainstorm how we could do this, get these funds out as quickly as possible, and to avoid the need for a reimbursement contract when our organizations cannot put up the funds.
Excellent. So, and really, again, want to thank staff for creating a mechanism, really thinking outside of the box in a way in which to move these items forward to allow for us to quickly get money in the hands of folks who we know need it right now. But this is more about investment for preparing for the future. I do understand that it's not operating, but it is one that, again, allows them to get ready for reopening, to prepare to serve more of the community. And so from that perspective, these are still great items. We know that our culture community continues to hurt and is incredibly challenged during the shutdown related to COVID-19. And so certainly from that perspective, certainly support both City Dance as well as Viz Arts, Glen Echo, Sandy Spring, and Roundhouse, who are the beneficiaries of making this change. My colleagues have any questions or concerns regarding this? Any comments? All right, so Ms. Chen, I'm going to say without objection. All right, thank you, Ms. Beck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arieti. All right. So now we are actually at the point where we can adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Howard, for catching that for us. To my colleagues, thanks so much. Take care and stay safe. Have a good one, guys.